Since Demon Slayer Season 3 is out, why not talk about this series and give my opinion on the highly popular series adapted by Ufotable. Not many people already did this, but might as well take advantage of the algorithm just a little bit and talk about the series that is heavily protected and also heavily criticized. First, might as well talk about the anime. The animation and just the overall production is phenomenal. The soundtrack, the ambiance, the backgrounds, the 3D CG usage is actually really good. I think they do a really good job of just blending 3D with 2D as well. Their CG is kind of wonky at times, but for the most part it looks pretty solid. And it definitely exceeds the manga adaptation to the level of not even really needing to read the manga, unless obviously you want to read the manga, see what the art looks like, and if you want to support Yotoge because you were just such a fan of the series, go ahead and do you. Now, Ufotable is indeed, whether you like it or not, it is carrying the franchise known as Demon Slayer. When it comes to the success and popularity of it, it's almost unreal because you've never seen an anime get that much buzz and popularity kind of out of nowhere. I mean, it even got a console game before a ton of other franchises. Something like Bleach still has yet to get a modern day console game, and Demon Slayer has one and potentially is going to be getting a second one later down the line. And it's really rare that an anime that is pretty much as basic as you can possibly be become extremely accepted and popular by the masses. In comparison to series like JJK, Chainsaw Man, Blue Lock, series where the anime came out and it had a cult-like following, or at least a big fan base that was there to hype up the anime, so you really couldn't avoid to not watch it. Meanwhile, Demon Slayer was nowhere near that level when it was coming out. Even in Japan, it wasn't that popular before the anime. And unlike Demon Slayer series, JJK, Chainsaw Man, Blue Lock, Hell's Paradise, the second season is really going to show how well these manga write their story and expand on what you know in the first season, because due to them being in the shonen magazines, they start out very simple for marketing purposes, then expand into something that's unique to the author based on what they wrote in the beginnings of their story. The reason Demon Slayer has blown up and become such a smash hit is because Ufotable goes above and beyond for that adaptation. Overtly simple stories that don't really expand at all kind of enhance the quality that Ufotable can really do, because they can kind of have fun with adding extra scenes or extra sequences to make things flow even better. They also have one-note characters that are easy to remember and fights that are treated like spectacles. Now, let's all be honest. When we seen Tengen versus Gyotaro, that was one of the most unbelievable fights I've ever seen. That was just unreal. You had to watch it so many times once you've already seen it. And literally anyone can turn on this series and understand the whole point of the show and how it's going to end, even after the first couple episodes. As a matter of fact, as soon as you meet Muzan, you kind of know what's going to happen when it gets to the end of the story. I gotta touch on this right now, because this comparison blows my mind when you actually think about it. Can we stop comparing Demon Slayer to Dragon Ball Z? Hell, even Dragon Ball. Because I've seen people say, oh, well, if you guys say we watch Demon Slayer just for the action, you can say the same thing for Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball doesn't have that much of a story, and that's one of the greatest anime of all time in terms of just being an icon to the whole medium of manga and anime. But I think what people fail to realize is, if you really want to compare Demon Slayer, all of it, to even just the beginning Dragon Ball, or even just Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z has so much lore and backstory and character development between Goku. Yes, Goku has character development. Y'all need to I'm not even the biggest Goku fan, but Goku does have some pretty solid character development. Obviously, we all know Vegeta. Vegeta's character alone is greater than anything Demon Slayer can produce in terms of story writing, even if he does get his ass kicked a lot. But when you look at just those two series, I just hate that comparison. I think it's really stupid, and people just say it just to kind of justify their own thing. Like, hey, if you watch Demon Slayer for the fights and that's really the only reason you check it out, or the characters because they're just silly and they just don't really advance that much, just go ahead and just say that. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, if you think about it, some of the greatest stories of all time are not complex. It's just relatability, just how funny they are. I don't know why Demon Slayer, a lot of people think, and the ones defending it or either the ones that's criticizing it, think it needs to have a complex story for all of its popularity. I just think that's kind of ridiculous. And the last comparison that also just kind of bugs my mind is the Demon Slayer JJK comparisons, which that's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. People have just said like JJK fights carry the series, which...
Would you shut your dumb ass up?
Because if you think out of everything JJK has, it's only the fights, good lord. Especially if you've read the manga, come on now. Let's let's be a little bit more wise around here. Let's go ahead and talk about the manga for a little bit. The manga art, from at least my perspective, it's decent. It's decent to good, I should say. But the ratio is leaning more so towards the decent side. The fights are drawn pretty good, although at times it kind of looks a little messy, like I don't even know what the heck I'm looking at. And the pacing is actually not bad. It's actually pretty good, because you get from point A to point B rather quick. Now from the arcs and just the story and just all of that, basically from start to the end of the series, Demon Slayer's story is the definition of repetitive. Tanjiro and Inosuke, Zenitsu, they go to a village, they meet a Hashira, they learn about the village, they fight a Upper Moon demon who happens to be there, fight said demon. Hashira either lives or dies, and they recover, they train, rinse and repeat. That's Demon Slayer. From beginning to end, that's exactly what it is. Now each arc does have its moment where something really cool happens, like Rui versus Tanjiro, Uzui versus Gyotaro, Rengoku versus Akaza. The Swordsmith Village, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really care for the stuff in that arc that much, but the Genya stuff and everything revolving, I think his backstory is in there a little bit if I can remember, and obviously that gun that he pulls out, the Nichiren gun, that's pretty badass. I think he's one of the shining points for this arc, and just the design of the Upper Moon 5 demon more so than the fight itself, because I'm not gonna lie, the fight kind of dragged a bit in the manga. I think in the anime though, they're gonna kill it. But that Upper Moon 5 demon design is peak. That's fire. I think that's the best design in the whole series. Now Infinity Castle is by far the best arc in the series. It's not perfect, but it lowers Demon Slayer to what it's good to. It's a bunch of fights, whether they have good build up or not, and that's how it executes this entire arc, and it's still pretty good. Akaza's criminal backstory was fire. I didn't really expect to like it as much as I did, considering, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of these demons are backstory merchants. They don't have much character until you get to the backstory, and by the time you get it, they're already dead. Zenitsu's fight with Kagaku, if that's even how you say his name, was random as hell. If I remember, I don't even think it was foreshadowed. It just came out of nowhere. Then Zenitsu learns a new hybrid form that has electricity and fire. Now, it was pretty cool. Like I can't even deny, but it just came out of nowhere. Inosuke Shinobu versus Doma was a pretty dope fight. I can't lie. That might have been my second favorite. Only real shame of it was just how Inosuke was integrated in the story between Doma and Inosuke was really poorly foreshadowed to where no one even remembered Inosuke's mother dropping off of a cliff. But I did like Doma for Demon Slayer because he's just an asshole of a demon. He didn't have a sympathetic backstory and he just went all in. Like he was just the definition of a prick. He was pure evil, and that's probably why I liked him that much. Guillaume and Tsunemi versus Kokushubo. The Upper Moon 1 demon is the best fight in the series. It's not even really close. The one fight that I was hooked on from the start to finish, because it was the #1 Demon Slayer versus the #1 Upper Moon demon, and the Upper Moon demon is a swordsman connected to Tanjiro's dad, or connected to his whole family lineage. The backstory for him was solid. I think that was really good. And Guillaume is one of the few simple characters that actually has a little bit of layers to him. Same for Kokushubo, and Tsunemi being there made him look better than anyone expected he was going to even be, especially since he was trying to protect his brother Genya. I think the whole dynamic between him and Genya is pretty fire. And they were fighting for the master. It also just felt like Tsunemi was also proving himself too. Like he felt like he belonged here. I think when this fight gets animated, it will definitely break the internet, kind of like how Rui versus Tanjiro did. Because I'm not gonna lie, when this gets animated by Ufotable, this is gonna be on a lot of people's top 10 fights for like a long time. The final arc, in my opinion, was just not good. Muzan is a waste of time final villain. He was so below average. It almost felt like I was insulted that I was still reading it. But if I'm far into reading something, I gotta finish it, obviously. I'm too optimistic sometimes in case it gets good. Demon King Tanjiro was the one thing I thought had some potential, but it went about as streamlined as it could possibly be. And the ending was an ending, if I could just say that. If Gotoge wanted to just end the story, all respects and rights to her. But what's in the manga, that final arc just felt like a giant waste of time. Let's go ahead and do a rundown of how I feel about some of the characters. Now, Tanjiro as an MC, I think he's just pretty basic. He's pretty, honestly, what you see is what you get with him. Kind of hearted soul, and he has his tendencies where he can just chop a demon's head off. That's about it. Nezuko is more so just a mascot than she is an actual character. Zenitsu and Inosuke just feel like wasted potential. Neither of them really grew, they just get stronger, quote unquote, as the arcs move on because they kind of have to. And that's about it. It almost felt sad because it was like I really liked Inosuke. Zenitsu can, now as annoying as he is, he at least has some cool fights. But man, it just felt like they just didn't grow at all. The Hashira are a solid group. My favorites are Gyomei and Uzui. As a whole, they served their purpose and that's kind of it, but they were still memorable. I'll at least give them that. It's wild to me that people still are actually comparing them and saying they're on the same level as the Gote 13. I think that's kind of crazy. Now the demons as antagonists were kind of the same thing. They did their job well. Akaza and Kokoshubo were these clear standouts, and Doma. The rest were just, like I said, backstory merchants. They didn't really bring any value to the series other than just filling time. And Muzan is one of the worst final villains I've ever read, and I've never seen a character. That man is just getting money just off Michael Jackson comparisons because of that damn fedora. Who would have thought a fedora would be saving the villain's whole credibility? Overall, Demon Slayer, I think it's a cool 5. That I probably can't go any higher than that. Unless I'm feeling generous, I'll give it like maybe a 6. But obviously, if you like it, embrace it. I mean, it's just a form of entertainment at the end of the day. Don't take none of this too seriously. But if I do give my opinion on it, it's out there now. So that's how I feel about it. So if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe as always, as we got other types of content coming on here. One Piece will be on here again, Blue Lock, and some other fun stuff coming as well. I'll let y'all in the next one. Peace.
ようこそ逆さまの世界へ。